Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the 1111 Update podcast. My name is Krista Kayser. I'm also known as the Vibe Curator, a Reiki practitioner, both level 1 and 2, an intuitive, and a tarot reader. I am obviously the host of this podcast, and today I am my own guest. This is a solo episode, and honestly, it probably should have been the first episode because I want to explain why I did this, why I want to do this, and what the hell got me into this line of work and kind of a little bit of my spiritual journey. But I truly felt more comfortable starting with a friend, and I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode with Nicole Turco. It was an honor and a privilege to have her. So I kind of touched on it in last episode, but I really started this podcast because I found that I really wanted to give something back to my clients and also my friends who kind of looked at spirituality as such a far-fetched thing. I truly believe it's such a personal journey for every single person, and never in a million years did I ever think that I would be, first of all, a Reiki practitioner, second of all, a tarot reader, and third of all, an intuitive. This was such an unexpected but fated journey for myself, and I think there's a lot of people who could benefit from just learning about other people's spiritual journeys and seeing that it doesn't have to be something that is super far-fetched and not tangible. So with Nicole, we talked about a lot of breath work and meditation and human design, and today I'm going to touch on my whole journey and kind of answer some of the same questions that I've been asking other people. So to start off, I just want to explain that I'm so fucking grateful to do what I do. It is a literal honor and a privilege to empower and uplift people and hold space and see people for their purest selves. I am so lucky to see people's vulnerabilities and help them feel empowered through sharing them. So this is probably very chesmo, but thank you to every single person who's entrusted me with doing a reading for them. I truly do not take it for granted. And I know that it's a physical, monetary investment, but it's also a spiritual investment. And I am truly grateful that y'all choose me. So to start things off, spirituality, like I kind of said, is such a personal thing. I think spirituality is one's relationship with themselves and also a higher power simultaneously. When I was young, I was in a family that, we didn't go to church save for very special occasions until, my parents kind of decided to give us a bit of a spiritual buffet. So we went to a United Church, and it was kind of up to us if we wanted to continue on. So I was baptized, I was confirmed, but I don't really have necessarily an organized religion relationship with God per se. I'm more of a universe, guides and angels, pray to my ancestors and loved ones, higher power kind of a gal. And I know that's not necessarily everybody's cup of tea, but that's mine. When I was little, I wouldn't say spirituality was even a thing in our house, except for I do have some recollection of being quite young, maybe 5 or 6 years old, being in the backseat of the car, and we lived kind of in the country, so we were driving back from somewhere, and it was really dark night, and I could see a ton of stars in the sky, and there was a conversation about, I think, my great-grandmother who had passed away, and that she's a star in the sky, and she looks down upon us and protects us, and, you can make your wish upon a star, and grandma will get it. So that's kind of I'd say the most woo-woo that I can recall from that time of my life. I grew up loving Sabrina the Teenage Witch, obsessed with it. The Melissa Joan Hart version that was on I don't know, ABC growing up. And I always thought she, like, that whole situation was the coolest thing in the world. Imagine just being able to, like, have the powers within you to shape the world around you. Little did I know. Which is kind of funny because recently I started rewatching it on Paramount Plus, and I thought I would relate to Sabrina, and I realized I've become one of the ants. There was like the first season, they're doing a bunch of puzzles and like at home and doing their like kind of spiritual things and their spells, etc. And I was like, oh my God, I am literally an old ant witch recluse, and I mean, I have to be okay with that, I think. So I grew up like just kind of loving the idea of witches and magic and being able to like kind of have some power in a way because, I mean, in a lot of ways, I did not feel like I had any. So, The Craft was a huge movie when I was growing up, and I remember a friend lived near the Ennismore Cemetery, and we actually went out there one afternoon and tried to have a seance at 9 years old or 10 years old, whenever that movie came out. So I was very easily and early influenced in that way. Like, I don't think I even saw a crystal until I was probably like 18 years old, you know? Like, I don't think that was really like a thing that I was exposed to. I don't believe that like my mom had any psychic readings or medium readings or anything like that. Like, it was never discussed. So spirituality to me back in the day was more of like a relationship with God, whereas I've grown up, it's become my relationship with myself and with the world around me. So yeah, not a lot of exposure growing up, but certainly a shit ton of curiosity. I would say that I kind of have like a few memories, especially of being a kid and like having certain downloads and certain ideas that kind of came to me. I had a friend in grade 7 who called me, and she had just started going out with this guy, and she's like, oh my God, like, how long do you think it'll last? And like the intuitive little meatball that I was, my mouth just flew open and was like, oh, I think you guys will stay together until February, where I think you'll break up because he's found somebody else. Like, that literally came out of my mouth, and I had no real control over that. And I remember her just being like, oh, okay. Like, you know, she didn't take it on. It was just kind of like a water off a duck's back. And I remember getting the call that February, like shortly thereafter, and it was her bawling, being like, so and so broke up with me, and he likes another girl, and the other girl happened to be my next door neighbor, but that's a long story. But there was like a few instances as a child where I was like, oh, like, I just know stuff, you know? I could kind of walk into a room and feel the energy. Like, you know, you could cut the tension with a knife, sometimes between my parents, or, you know, I don't know, like walk into a room at your grandparents' house in a conversation between two people, and you're like, well, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Even though you didn't hear anything, you can feel it. So I was certainly like, I just thought that was normal, and I'm sure it is. I think a lot of people can feel energy like that. So to me, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. But when I kind of made that, we'll call it a prediction, with my friend, then that's kind of when, I don't know, maybe I just like hesitated or was like, huh, that's different. And I guess I kind of did have a bit of a spiritual awakening that kind of popped everything off. I've had like different readings and stuff when I was younger, I'd say before my spiritual awakening, but I would say like my real spiritual awakening happened when I was like 29 years old. There was just something inside of me that was like, you got to get the fuck back into the woods, like go back into the mountains, go back into nature, and just release all your stresses and strip it all back to like nothing and start over again. And that's literally exactly what I did. And it was like such a fucking rebirth. It was like, I couldn't, I mean, long story, but I'll try not to bore you guys. I I moved I moved out west when I was 18 years old and kind of popped around different provinces, different areas, and then moved back to Ontario periodically to take care of my grandfather when my grandma passed, like was dying and passed away, and then just whenever I needed to kind of catch my breath, and then I would kind of bounce back out. So when I was 23, I got the call that my dad had a blood cancer, and I moved back to Ontario, and kind of my caregiver lifestyle continued. So I worked in adult group homes with adults with developmental disabilities. I've helped take care of my friend's 94-year-old grandparent. I've done that for my grandparents. Like, I've been a caretaker for a very, very, very long time. And so I moved back at 23. My dad passed when I was 25, and he was pretty much like the person keeping my grandpa in his home. And so my grandfather made me promise that I wouldn't go anywhere, that I would help him. And so that's exactly what I did. And so when my grandfather passed, I kind of got the fuck out of the country. I went to Australia for a bit and then came back to Ontario. Thought I'd live in Toronto, and just spent like my whole life on the subway because I was going back and forth trying to pay for my apartment. Long story. So when I was kind of over that, around, I guess, 28, 29, I was like, where was I the happiest? And I remembered my time in Jasper. So I got the hell back there. And it's just seemed like everything was lining up. Everything, it was a time where I truly had no stress. And that's what I was trying to get rid of. I had lived at such a high stress level for so long that I just needed a fucking break, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And truly, I got a spiritual break. Like, it was like a rebirth. Like I mentioned, I felt so free, so like autonomous. Like, I only had myself to be responsible for the first time in a very long time. And sorry, I'm going to get a little emotional about it. I deserved it. I deserved to spend time healing and working on myself and processing everything that had happened, and starting a life for myself that I could be free and proud and happy in. And, it's been a journey, but I like to think that's exactly what I've done. Let's clock it that I started crying 13 minutes in. I should have started with this. I am a Cancer sun, a Leo moon, and a Taurus rising. I am also a Leo Venus and Mercury. So I will cry, I will giggle, and I will try to mother myself throughout this. So the first reading I ever had was a numerology reading by, she still does them in the area. It's The Number Genie, and she has a website, The Number GENIE. Sorry, I had to think about that because her name's Jeannie and she spells it different on the website. So it's The Number Genie, GENIE.com, I believe. And I I was a hairdresser at the time. Guys, I can't even tell you. Actually, I can. I've probably got a list of it somewhere in my phone of every single career that I did, or every job that I did that brought me to this. So I was a hairdresser at a lovely local Aveda salon, and one of my color clients, who was my boss's client, she had invited me to a girls' party at her house, and it's not something that I maybe would have typically done, but her and I just had like a dope ass connection. Like, I, to this day, I'm in touch with her and love her. Shout out Moni, love you. So she said she was having a numerologist over, And, if I want to come and get like a half an hour reading, then I could. So I went and, I met all these lovely women who, some of them I knew their sons, some of them I knew their daughters, like through school as teachers or friends or whatever. So it was just like a really lovely afternoon. So finally it was my turn for the reading. And just like I cried within 13 minutes here, I think I cried within 4 minutes of my first numerology reading. I was told almost immediately that the guides were showing me as like a maid to my family, as somebody who was like a servant who was there to kind of clean, cook, and look after everybody. And just, I was still, my grandfather was still alive at the time. I believe I was maybe 26. I think this was the summer after my dad passed, or the summer, maybe 27. And she just clocked me immediately. Like, no, even my family, like, I was begging for help, and, I don't begrudge anybody in this, but I was like drowning, trying to work a full-time job, look after my grandpa full-time, and still be like, a normal, quote unquote, normal, 20-something-year-old. So I was drowning, and like the people who knew me and loved me couldn't see me drown, but this, absolute angel of a stranger was able to clock me immediately. So I'll never forget that. And we had quite an incredible 30 minutes. I did record it, but I cannot for the life of me recover that. I have no clue where it is. And I do recall Jeannie saying that, like, you could do what I do. You should take a numerology course. Like, you're very intuitive. You would be great at doing stuff like this. And, I kind of was like, yeah. But she also said that I would make money with my voice. And, podcasts certainly weren't a thing. So if I end up making money with a podcast, the number Jeannie is getting even more props than I already give her. And I'll probably, I don't know, send her some flowers or do something really lovely for her because, damn, she's good. So yeah, I'd say the numerologist, Jeannie, was my first ever session or reading that I had, and it truly changed my life. Like, I'd never felt seen or heard like that, especially by a literal stranger. And I've seen, at this point in my life, I've been read by numerologists, mediums, aura readers, just intuitives. I've had Reiki practitioners, angel reader. I'm trying to think. Gosh, I've several mediums, astrology, human design. Like, I'm so open to it. And I do recall somebody saying, I'm sure it was in a meme or like something, that the people who felt the most misunderstood growing up often delve into these different modalities to understand themselves and to help and support other people feel understood. And I can 100% attest to that like, I don't know if that's why necessarily, but it certainly helps heal part of me that has gone and felt unseen for so long, especially back then. And I had a life-changing Reiki session when I was living in Grand Prairie, so I think it was 2020, just maybe at the very beginning or at the very tail end of 2019. I had gone to this local lady, Rianne. She was amazing, and so she is kind of has like medium powers as well. And so I went in for the Reiki session, and like, she saw some shit that like nobody has ever seen. And I'll probably get into that at a different time, but like, I don't want to traumatize anybody this far or like this early into this podcast thing. But I was able to connect with my late father, and we had a very healing conversation, and it changed a lot about my life. I got a lot of answers through people I'd never met before. Like, again, I promise at a later date, I will do a whole kind of episode about that, but I don't want to make this like a 4 hour long fucking intro. So I left that session and I thought, God, if I could even bring somebody like 10% of the healing that I felt in that day, what a gift that would be to the world. Because at that point, I had done, like I said, so many different jobs, careers, and I was living in Grand Prairie. I fell in love with somebody there who, you know, he was from there. He had an entire life there, and I didn't have any roots there, aside from my cousin, and I didn't have like it. I'm not an oil girl. Like, I did not grow up in oil field Alberta, which is, amazing for those who have, but I didn't have the oil field skills or like anything. So I was really struggling to find something within my skill set to do, and I was really miserable. I was really sad. I was really lonely. And after I had that life-changing reading, I was like, okay, I think this is maybe perhaps something I should pursue. Like, I'm really feeling drawn to that. So I'd say like I probably felt the most like seen ever, like for the first time with Jeannie, but the one of the most life-changing modalities and experiences was when I had a Reiki experience with Rianne, who also did that kind of like mediumship, holistic, like I don't even know how to explain it, session. But I've also had one other life-changing reading, which I think might have been maybe the right before, like the year before I saw Rianne. I was very lucky enough to have an aura reading, an email aura reading with the Mystic Michaela. I do recall seeing her on Real Housewives of Orange County. Shout out to all my Bravo angels. I'm obsessed. But I don't think that that's how I found her. Like, I found her through some other way online, and then was like, oh, okay, shit, yes, I'm dying. So I emailed her. I wanted a reading, and what I got back was just, again, it was that pivotal moment. It was that pivotal reading in my life that helped change everything. And I think that's what opened me up to knowing that, like, Reiki maybe was a modality that I would have never thought about before I had this reading. So she had said that I am an indigo and purple aura, and indigos are so rare that she only really sees them in her readings. We're entirely empathic. I absorb the feelings of others, but not only that, I can feel the root as to why people feel the way that they feel. And those were not my words; these were Mystic Michaela's words. But they've become a banner of pride for what I do with my clients. Like, I'm so grateful that I'm able to kind of get down and through to the root of things and try to help heal those. And at the time, like, I just couldn't understand why I felt like shit all the time when I'd leave certain people, or when I'd be in certain environments. I'd feel so fucking drained and I'd feel so terrible about myself. But before, like when I went into the situation, I didn't necessarily feel that way. Like, I maybe felt more optimistic or, just fine overall. And I'd leave feeling judged and like just shit upon, truly. And so that reading helped me to kind of be like, shit, okay, that's why I'm not resonating. This is why I can't reconcile these feelings, is because they're not mine. And so that was huge. That helped me, especially when I got into Reiki, when I started doing oracle and intuitive readings as well as tarot readings, was being able to go, okay, this is how I feel before the reading and this is how I feel after. So maybe I need to do some cleansing, some grounding, like whatever. But yeah, that was one of those kind of readings where everything just went through my body, and I was like, okay, this, Mystic Michaela also mentioned that, a 9 to 5 as much as you try to make it work, will never feel right in your bones. And girl, I have tried so many 9 to motherfucking 5s, and they just make me want to crawl out of my skin. And again, I am not shitting on anybody who can do it. I'm genuinely envious because my brain just does not, my body just does not allow it after a certain amount of months. Like I just get itchy and I start to go like, okay, I got to get out of here. I got to get the fuck out of here before I self-sabotage. And so, sorry, I'm like reading off a little list of like things that I'm hitting. So if it feels like I'm kind of jumping around, kind of know why. I'm trying to self-guide and like bring it all together, but shit, I'm a squirrel in a cage sometimes, and I'm just trying to do my little best here. I'd say like, honestly, for me, the biggest spiritual like aha moment in my journey was that reading with Mystic Michaela, of being like, you feel other people's feelings. That's why you're so around certain people. And like, honestly, that just changed everything. It really did, because when I allowed myself to not beat myself up for feeling certain ways, I could kind of detach from that and start to kind of feel deeper into the other person. And so that was such a gift to learn, especially because like most of my life I've always felt the things that I've felt. I've always, kind of said the things that I've said, but I wasn't always met with with applause in any way, shape, or form. Like, people aren't necessarily happy for you to be like, hey, what's going on with this? And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? I've never even talked to somebody about this before. So that can be a little like, we'll say isolating. And, some people just don't want to be around somebody who can, like, not that I'm ever trying, but can clock them. And so from a young child, like, I was told, like, what are you talking about? Don't even, my intuition, my gifts were never encouraged. Certainly they were almost discouraged and kind of told like, no, you got it all wrong, kid. Like, listen to what we say and take what we say at face value. And so that's never worked well for me. Shout out to me. But being able to like tap into my own feelings and figuring out how to separate my feelings, like I said, like before with the Mystic Michaela hint of clocking my feelings before I go into a group space, whether it's work, whether it's, roommates, whether it's, like I used to work at a luxury hotel where we had 500 staff members. Like, you could feel a lot of shit there. But whenever you go into different spaces, whether it's just you and one other person or you and 100 other people, clock how you feel. Take note. Okay, I feel good. I'm in a great mood. I'm excited. the sun is shining. And if you come out and you're like depleted and withdrawn and just totally, totally energetically drained, then try to think of who you've interacted with, and what kind of environment you were in. And not that you need to cut anybody off or do anything like that, but you learn to stop investing more time and more energy into it and kind of figure out what works for you. So I'd say that's been one of my like most helpful aha moments in my little journey. And one of, the hardest lessons that I've ever had to learn in this journey is that it's very lonely. Like, only you know what you're going through a lot of the time. Like, even though we do share a lot of things with our loved ones, obviously we're not sharing every single thought and every single feeling and every single, burden that we're going through. Even if we have like the most trusted people in our lives, and spiritual journeys are hard. And, I've been estranged from my immediate family for siblings since 2011, 2012, and 2012 or 2011, or sorry, 2013 with my mom. So I simply could not accept certain treatment. And it does not matter who it's from. I would never accept that treatment for my friends, and I certainly was never going to accept that treatment for my family. So, I've had to do things a different way and to heal things a different way, because if I didn't, like, who knows where I'd be? Like, I'd be probably the most miserable, angriest, just bitch. And not to say I can't be, but like, I would be like 100 times worse. So I find, like, you do lose relationships, you do lose friendships, you do kind of evolve, and not everybody's evolving with you. And that's okay. And I think, again, that's one of the hardest spiritual lessons, is to learn that everybody is on their own journey. And like, as fucking stupid as that sounds, like, yes, everybody's on their own journey. No shit. But like, really, we're all main characters in our own lives, and everybody else is the main character in their own life, and they have their own battles, and they have their own victories, and they have their own lessons. And sometimes we have dreams that involve people, and we have hopes that involve people, and wishes, and it's not necessarily always the case. Like, what is it? A reason, a season, or a lifetime, where you, like, relationships are either there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And, we don't get to choose necessarily which one it is. We just learn along the way. So I do want to prepare anybody who's going through kind of a spiritual journey that, like, don't be afraid to do it, because yes, it's hard. Yes, it sucks. Yes, you lose some stuff, but there's so much more that you gain. I have come into some friendships that, holy shit, like, for example, when I was in Jasper, when I left, gave up my life and ran out to the mountains for the second time, or possibly third time. But when I did that, I ended up having to do physiotherapy, and I was matched with the fucking most badass, perfect, like, specimen soul match for me in the world. And she is, to this day, one of my best fucking friends. And we couldn't be friends, obviously, when I was her patient. We had to, like, pretend like we weren't obsessed with each other and being like, we should hang out when you release me. But after, when I was released, we hung out, and it was just like fucking soul family. And she is also a Reiki practitioner. And when I had kind of my whole life fall apart in 2020, not like everybody else didn't. This is just, my kind of version of things. But I ended up breaking up with that partner who I was with in Grand Prairie, and I had no money, no car, nothing, because I had given everything up to go all in on Reiki and doing this. And I called Sarah, and yeah, I'm sure she doesn't mind if I say her name. I called her and was like, is there any fucking way you could drive me to Winnipeg? And she's like, bitch, are you kidding? I'll be there in 6 hours. So she came, drove 4 hours north to get me, drove 4 hours back. We spent the night at her place, and her and her incredible husband just cradled me with love. And then we got on the road and hit to fucking Winnipeg. So, people will put the best people, like, sorry, not people, but the universe and your guides and your angels and God, creator, anything that you believe in, like, your spiritual journey will put the best people in your place who, you'll never know what your relationship is going to be, what the adventures you're going to have, and what kind of a connection you're going to have. So I'm so grateful that, like, at the time when I was isolating, I found people who I could rely on. And to this day, most of the people that I met in Jasper that I was really good friends with, I am to this day. And, it's just such a fucking lesson of gratitude that when you trust and you give things up and you release things that no longer align with you, relationships, friendships, work, jobs, pardon me. Sorry, I just need a sip. 1 sec. Pardon me. Sorry, that when the universe, when you clear things out of your life, the universe replaces them with things that are so fucking incredible. And pardon me, that is probably one of the things that I've seen most in myself is like my perspective has changed, my attitude has changed, my mindset, my belief systems have changed since I've started this spiritual journey. The belief systems that I grew up having, the kind of childhood that I had, the early kind of adulthood that I had, I certainly was a very angry person for a very long time. And I've changed so much in the ways of just not thinking the world is against me. Like, not thinking that everyone's, talking shit about you. They're not that I necessarily am like her biggest hype woman, but I did learn a great thing from Brene Brown where she said, don't look for the negative. Like, don't look for reasons why you shouldn't be here because you will find them. And instead, look for reasons why you belong and why you should be here. Because I certainly suffered terrible depressions, even further than that, like I've certainly not wanted to live, like, I don't know how else to say that, like it's such a shitty thing to say and it's such a shitty thing to kind of relive, but like I've wanted to kind of leave this world several times before, and I think that's like what I'm so grateful for, is that even if I do go through some really rough times, they're no longer just like huge holes of depression like that. I have the spiritual tools, I have different resources, I have a great community that I found for myself that help lift me out of them, because I'm not immune from depression even through a fucking spiritual journey. And I think that's one of the biggest tropes about fucking spiritual journeys, is that people think all of a sudden, oh my God, you are an enlightened being, you never make mistakes, you never fuck up, you never beat up on yourself, or you never like are depressed. Bitch, absolutely not. You're still human. It's just a different approach and a different relationship with yourself and with your guides and with the universe. I wish when I started that I knew I'd feel this way. And I think that's something where a lot of people are in positions where they just want to feel good about their life. They just want to feel good about themselves, and they just want to feel good in this world. And even though, like I said, there's days, there's weeks, there's months, whatever, but I wish that I could tell myself when I started this that I would feel like this. And that when people saw me, they would brighten their whole day and they would be uplifted, and people would be coming to me to help them through some of the darkest times of their life. It's like, I wish that I knew that I could feel like this. And that is something that I wish for every single person who's going fucking through it, is that I hope, and my greatest wish is that you will feel the way you could have never imagined feeling after. Sorry, guys. I mentioned I'm a Cancer. I've had some incredible fucking moments of synchronicity in my little journey. And maybe one of the most recent was last year. I was living in a little mountain town about 10 minutes north of the BC and Washington state border. And like, it was a journey. I had moved out to Jasper. I'd manifested like everything that I wanted. And when I got there, it was like, bitch, this is not it. Like, something is not right. You came here, you did your swan song, and now you got to get the fuck out. So I ended up going to live with a friend who was living in this cute little town, and I couldn't figure out why I was there. Like, I knew I had been moved there for a reason, and I think, again, that's something else that I've changed about myself throughout the spiritual journey, is that, like, now I look for the lesson or the blessing. Like, why am I here? It's not just, yeah, maybe it is random sometimes, but bitch, I'm looking for some fucking lessons in that random then. I'm looking for, like, is this a lesson or is this a blessing? And so I kept saying, like, I know I'm here for a reason, but I don't really know what it is. So I was managing this little shop, and I was in the back doing some stuff, pardon me, and I heard this lady come in, and my coworker was like, hey, you know about this? Like, can you come tell us? And I was like, yeah, for sure. So I came around, I was talking to this lovely lady, and I was showing her the other side of the store. And if you know anything about me, I'm obsessed with seniors. I love seniors. I swear that I was raised by them because, like, honestly, my dad was 40, not that that's senior, when I was born. So my grandparents were, like, in their late 60s, early 70s, etc. Always been around seniors. And so we were chitty-chatting, and I have no idea, again, what brought this up, what brought this out. But I said, you know, like the night before, pardon me, I'd been brought to tears because I missed my grandparents. Like, I don't think you guys understand how much time I spent with these grandparents. Grandma and Grandpa Kayser were like my lifelines in my entire childhood. They were my safe space. They were my, like, beacons of light. Like, no one could say a bad word about either of them because those two were my fucking angels kind of people. And so I was house sitting for a friend and ended up, like, searching on eBay for these stamps and coins. So long story short, my great-great-great-grandfather was the 5th Prime Minister of Canada, and that was on my grandmother's side. And something inside of me said, look for something, like, see if they have stamps, see if they have coins, and, you know, that'll bring me, like, a little piece of my grandparents. So I ordered my things, and I went to work, like I said, and I met this lady, and for some reason I said, you know, yeah, last night, you know, my great-great-great-grandfather was the 5th Prime Minister of Canada, and I was looking for coins, and blah, blah, blah. And this lady goes, Sir Mackenzie Bowl? And I was like, pardon me? And I was like, how the hell do you know that? Like, I'm sorry, I wouldn't even know this guy's name if I wasn't related to him. So she says that her stepmother, her brother, was married to the granddaughter of the Prime Minister. And so I was like, oh, that's weird. That would be like my grandma's mom, just the way she explained it. And so, I don't know, we got talking. She said, yeah, I was in Ontario and I saw this service set. And, like, that was, like, you know, code word, like, KGB action, you know, sleeper cell, like, was woken up inside of me being like, no, you know, my grandparents called this dishware a service set. Like, that was the words for it. And she said, you know, I'm trying to think of their name. I think their last name was Kayser. And I just started sobbing. It was like my last name is Kayser, but, you know, a lot of people remind us that it's very close to Kaiser, and that's how they remember it. So I was just sobbing. It was like an absolute message hug for my grandparents. And to this day, I have been very close with this woman. It's like a second chance at a family, you know. She is an angel. She's lovely. And that was one of probably the coolest moments of synchronicity that I can remember in a very, very long time. And also, actually, recently, I was doing a friend's hair, and she was telling me about this birthday party that she went to. And I was like, oh, what's their name? And she said it, and I was like, oh, somebody I know, just like a friend of theirs moved to the area, and I don't know why, I just thought of this person. Like, I've never met this person. And so a couple days later, she's like, no, it was so-and-so, and off she went. Never thought of it again. A couple days later, these guys come to our house, my aunt's house, to fix some steps, and my aunt's talking to the guy, and the one guy is a twin of the guy that I was thinking of when I was doing my friend's hair. And he said it was their birthday on Saturday, and it was their, 40th birthday, the same that my friend was talking about, and that they had a party on that Saturday. So that was one of those weird moments where I was like, I've never even met these people, and I'm getting downloads about their birthday party. So, yeah, you just never know in my line of work what kind of downloads I'm gonna get and how the hell I'm gonna process them. I learn things all the time. Like that's why I don't call myself a medium or a psychic or anything, because I don't really know what the fuck I do. I don't really connect with dead people, even though I've had a couple come through. But for the most part, I'd say I'm an intuitive. Like I get downloads, I get thoughts, I get feelings, I get shown things, and I try to describe them and help people, relate to them and incorporate them the best that I can. So in my daily life, I am obsessed with meditation. I use Insight Timer religiously. I've missed 2 days in like 700, so almost 2 years. I've only missed 2 days. And my inner, like, part of me that's just like obsessed with perfection, it hurts. It hurts to have missed those 2 days. But I'm back on, I think, day 89 in a row. So I try to meditate every single day. I do pull cards, but funnily enough, like I don't pull them a ton for me. Usually like once a week I'll go ham and like pull a bunch of cards. I do I'm learning emotion code right now, and I feel like that's going to be something that I incorporate quite a bit more into my daily and like my weekly or monthly spiritual practices. I try to do like a new moon manifestation and like a full moon release every month that it's safe to do so. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, you know that I always warn you to let you know when it's safe to do so. And other than that, like I talk to my guides and angels like almost every night. One of my, greatest lessons that I learned throughout this journey was like, thank your guides and angels in advance for the things that you're calling in, because it shows that you trust that they're coming, and it releases you from the burden of how it's going to happen. So yeah, that's one of them. I feel most connected to my spirituality when I'm walking in nature. When I'm like outside, I'm very much like a sun-charged being with that Cancer sun, Leo moon, and Taurus rising. I am a springtime, summertime dream, and I just get charged up by the sun. So usually, like, I find I'm very connected to like myself, my spirituality, my guides and angels when I'm outside or when I'm in water. So whether I'm showering, I'm in the pool, I'm in the hot tub, I'm at the lake or beside the lake, I'm a big water girl. I grew up spending a lot of time on like some of the, 154 lakes in our general area. So it's just always been like a safe spot for me. I would say like now in my spiritual journey, I navigate difficulties and difficult situations much different than I used to. So for example, some of you may know I've suffered endometriosis for roughly 27 years, and I was due to have a hysterectomy on April 30th. I was admitted. I was there naked in a gown with my little heated towel on for 4 hours, staring at CP24 news, and my surgery got canceled that day. We ran out of OR time, and perhaps in times in the past I would have said half at least, or maybe a quarter of anything that came to my mind at that time. But instead, I just kind of stayed mute and got the hell out of there, and have tried to stay so gracious and grateful and not give in to the like annoyed, disappointed, like I have to give my gratitude for the fact that like I walked into a hospital and was having a major surgery and would have left either that night or the next day and not had to pay $1, not had to refinance somebody's home, not had to take out like $1 billion loan just for my health. And so, I do give a lot of gratitude. And so I think in these moments, there's this one quote by Michael J. Fox that I think in the last year came out from an interview that somebody did with him. And they said, throughout your, illness with Parkinson's, like, how do you stay optimistic? And Michael J. Fox said, with optimism, I'm so sorry, with gratitude, optimism is sustainable. And like, let that bitch sink in. With gratitude, optimism is sustainable. Even with everything that's going on in this fucking world right now, with my health, with everything, I have so much to be grateful for. And that helps to keep me optimistic, not only for myself, but like for my community, for my people. And I think that is just like one of the greatest lessons. Now, don't get me wrong, I will cuss a bitch out when I'm driving. I will fucking call every member of your family the worst things in my brain while you cut me off or go slow or almost hit me in vehicle. Now, road rage is a different thing. I don't have that quite, wrapped up. And also, I'm not fighting anybody, guys. Like, it's not that serious. It's just I get a little mouthy behind the wheel and I try to keep it with the windows up. So I navigate a lot of different problems and situations much differently than I would have previously. And I guess I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I knew I was called to pursue this as a career after my Reiki session that I received from Rianne in Grand Prairie. I knew that this just helping people to feel relief, to feel a little lighter, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel fucking validated and acknowledged in the form that they are, not in the ways that other people want to consume them or receive them, but in the exact form that they are. That was a gift from like the gods, the universe, creator, angels, my guides, everybody. It was an absolute fucking gift because it helps little me to help other people and to help people with my gift that little me couldn't really lean into, And so, like, I'm continually called to develop my spiritual practices. I'm dying to do a breathwork course. I am reading the emotion code and have something set up with one of my best friend's moms who is going to teach me some different things with that, as well as potentially become a Reiki master. So there are things even right now that I'm working towards. I'm slightly studying human design. I've been kind of studying astrology for the last couple of years, and I say that very loosely. I can kind of relate some shit, but man, there's a lot that I don't know. But I think that's what's so great about this. I think that's what's so entertaining about all of these different spiritual modalities is like, if something doesn't align with you, or if you kind of feel like you're growing out of something, there's so many cool fucking things to get into. And like my spiritual gifts are my intuition, my ability to help people feel seen, validated and heard, empowered, to connect with I love to help people connect with their intuition. I can bring up the energy, I'm certainly a personality higher, but I also have the skills to back it up, but, personality keeps me around for sure. I'd say like one of my gifts is my humor. I've been able to use it as a resource in some wild situations, and I mean, it's what helps kind of break tension for myself. Yeah. It's just kind of like winding down. Sorry, I have to like bring my energy down. The advice that I would give to anybody who is starting out on your spiritual journey is to just trust it. Enjoy it. As hard as it can be, as, draining, as emotional as it can be, as frustrating, it can be rewarding and uplifting and empowering and life-changing tenfold more than the hard stuff. Know that you will find people along your journey who you connect with, who, you would have never find otherwise. So trust that you are in the right place at the right time. Trust that you cannot miss what is meant for you. And I know these are like things that go around the internet and you're like, yeah. But bitch, that is the fucking thing. I cannot miss what is meant for me. I cannot miss what is meant for me. It helps to, like, when you get paralyzed by making decisions, especially at the beginning of your spiritual journey, you're trying to change the patterns that old you or that version of you is doing, and you kind of second guess a lot going forward. And so know that you can't make the wrong decision. Know that you're doing the absolute best that you can, and know that, like, you cannot fucking miss what is meant for you. I strongly recommend getting a tarot reading by me. But if not me, then by somebody that you have recommended to you. Like, if you're starting out in this, get a reading. Get, whether it's, not necessarily a reading, sorry. Explore a modality that you feel called to, whether it's breath work, whether it's Reiki, whether it's, like cold plunging or, human design or yoga or meditation. Just don't be afraid to honor the things, like the curiosities that come up. Buy yourself a deck of cards. Buy yourself a pendulum. Pardon me. Get yourself some crystals. Insight Timer is one of the absolute best resources I can recommend for guided meditations, for solo meditations, for any meditations. The Aliza Kelly Constellation Club is an incredible resource for people who are learning about how to read cards, how to read your own birth chart, how to connect to astrology and different people in the community. There's such a great community on TikTok. There's an excellent community on Instagram, but just ask around. Don't be afraid. Don't be in the spiritual closet. Allow yourself to kind of come out, and the people will find you and you will find them. If you have any questions, any like advice that you want, any spiritual insights you're looking to grab, don't be afraid to reach out. You can find me on Instagram at the.vibe.curator. You can find me on TikTok at the Vibe Curator 1111, I believe, or on Facebook as the Vibe Curator. My website is thevibecurator.ca. And there's a contact page if you're looking to have a reading or if there's anything that you need. I hope this has been somewhat fucking tolerable, ? But I'll find out with the insights. Just kidding. I appreciate you listening to this, and I'm really excited for everything that we're going to be exploring and for all of the incredible people you guys are going to be meeting. And a lot of them are friends. So thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. And I hope you have a great fucking day, angels. Toodles.